Hi, it's Chris. From this morning's BHPA AGM, it was clear to me that some people are not too familiar with how to submit an incident report, and indeed maybe what to put in one. So I'm just going to run through it quickly. So let's say you've had an incident or you've seen an incident and you want to tell the BHPA, tell your colleagues all about it. Get your laptop and start typing in your search engine BHPA incident report. There we go, it's in already for me. So BHPA incident report. What you'll come up with is incident reports, formal investigations or informal investigations, which is not what we want really. That's all to do with things that have already happened. The next one down in the list is formal investigations, so maybe more serious ones. Again, not what we want. But the third option down, the third option on my list here, is submit incident report. That's what we're after. So let's click that. Here we go. So incident report, and top right hand side here we've got a few things that we need to look at. First of all, just want, for those who don't know me, I'm a BHPA paragliding instructor, but before that I was an RAF and then airline pilot. In those worlds, if you had an incident, you had to report it. It was mandatory. It's one of the rules. And actually, it's mandatory for paraglider pilots too, but most are unaware of this fact. It's just that when you're training to be a sort of big airplanes pilot, it's drummed into you that if something happens, you absolutely must submit incident reports. Whereas it's not part of the syllabus for the BHPA syllabus for paragliding. However, it is an important thing to do, and just on the top left here, the first sentence, it says it's a legal requirement and your duty as a BHPA member to report air incidents. So serious stuff. It's kind of legal requirement as well as a good idea. But at the end of the day, if something happens to you, then it's a really good idea to let everyone else know, because it might be something which no one else has heard of before, and it might be something which someone reads about and stops them having the same thing happen to them. So let's just look at this list of things that we can talk about. It says, please report an incident you have witnessed or been involved in. So it doesn't have to be something that happens to you. If you see something happening and you think, crikey, someone could learn from this, stick an incident report in. Then what sort of things to talk about? Well, something where someone gets hurt, either participants or others, then that's something to talk about. Damage to property, third party or not. If it may give rise to an insurance or legal claim, I wouldn't know anything about that. If it involves non-standard equipment or techniques, yeah, okay, that makes sense. If it involves failed or malfunctioned equipment, so yeah, that's pretty obvious. If your wing falls apart, you want the world to know about it so that no one else will have that problem. The last two interesting ones: highlights safety points or was unusual. That's a pretty subjective statement there, so it's up to you to decide what is a safety point and what was unusual. But if you think this got something to do with safety, then stick it in. And the last one's the best one of all, is something you feel the sport may learn from. So by the sport, that just means your colleagues, everyone else in paragliding. If it's happened to you, it could happen to someone else. So let's tell people about it, and then we can stop accidents happening, hopefully. So you've decided to submit an incident report, and you're on the right page. But there's no obvious button or arrow or something to press on here, which is kind of your first stumbling block. It's cunningly hidden behind the header here, so you've got to click this. And what will happen when you click this is you'll get taken through to a report form which is produced by the, let me get the acronym right, the European Hang Gliding and Paragliding Union. So it's kind of the European equivalent of the BHPA. They keep a database of all reported incidents. So here we go, we found the right page, we found the link. Let's click the link and see what happens. Right, so record an incident or an accident. Step 1 of 6, and it's quite a big step, this one. Yes, there are 6 pages, so it could take you a long time if you've filled in every field. However, none of the fields are mandatory, so you can just stick in as little or as much as you want. And I would strongly suggest that you don't put text in about things that you don't know anything about. Just write about what you have seen or has happened to you. So let's just run through it quickly. General information then, who's it reported by? So it could be by you, it could be by if you were the pilot involved, if you were the passenger in a tandem flight, or you saw it happen, you can stick your details in. Date and time, yeah, you should have some idea of flying location. Incident pilot, it might be someone you don't know, in which case just leave that blank. It's not a problem. Then down at the bottom here, blue button to continue to the next page. Okay, this is entitled Equipment and Weather. So, glider equipment, you might not know, in which case leave it blank. If it's your stuff, stick in as much information as you can find out. There's things like test laboratory. I mean, good grief, I don't know which test laboratory tested my wing, so just leave it blank. Harness, if it's relevant to the incident, stick your harness details in. If it's not, leave it out. Power unit, obviously not relevant to us as a sport. Emergency parachute, if you didn't pull it, there's no point talking about it. Accessories, helmet. Weather, most of our incidents are weather related. I think that's reasonable to say. So as much detail as you can put in here about the weather would be a good thing. If you want to go back to the first page, you can go back at this stage. In fact, you can go back at any stage and revise what you've written. But once you've finished with a page, then press the blue continue button. Okay, course events, what happened? So pick a flight phase, whether it was on the takeoff run itself, while he was flying, during the landing or whatever. And just describe put as much detail in there as you can. What happened to the paraglider? Well, you might not understand it. And some of these words here might be a bit sort of, certainly for the newer pilots, you might, oh God, no idea what any of that stuff is. Don't worry about that. There's a page later on, or a field later on, where you can just write down what you saw. Describe what happened to the paraglider as best you can remember it. You don't have to decide it was a stable spiral dive, for example. Contributory factors, yep, you might want to sort of make a judgment on what it was, but make sure that you're right, really, before you start sort of blaming the pilot or saying it was poor airmanship. I would suggest if you're not sure, just leave it blank. Okay, on to the next page. Injuries. If the poor chap or you were unfortunate enough to be hurt, then as much detail here as you can give, please. Moving swiftly on. So item description. Here's the box I was talking about earlier on. Description of what happened. You can leave all the other fields blank and just fill this one in. Just write what happened. I saw him fall out the sky and hit a tree, or whatever. Further information URL. This is where you can stick photographs in. There's no direct way of uploading photographs on this form, unfortunately. But what you can do is you can stick your photos onto a suitable platform, for example Dropbox or something similar to that, and then get the link from that to share on the incident report form here. So that's quite a good idea, especially a photo paints 1,000 words, whatever the phrase is. So if you can get pictures of what's happened within reason, no blood and gore, please. But if you've got some decent photographs which show what happened, or video even better, then stick them in there. Or put a note in there saying, I've got loads of video, but I can't work out how to upload it. I'll send it to you later. Right, what's next? Last page. Phew. Incident pilot, again, if it was you can stick your details in. If you don't know who it was, then leave it blank. If you saw what happened and you're witnessing it, then you can stick yourself in there. Or if there are loads of people around and they're happy to have their names in the report form, do check that first. Stick their details in as witnesses. If it was in a school, give the details of that. And if you're a third party, if you didn't see it happen, it didn't happen to you, but you still think that something could be learnt, or you heard about it, then stick it in as a third party one. And that's it. So when you press a continue for the next time, you get a summary of what you've written. Obviously on this one I haven't written very much because I've been busy talking, but as you type in your information onto the information will be there, so you can give it a quick check over, make sure it reads about right and it's accurate. And then when you get to the bottom, you can of course go back and make any changes if you wish, but once you're happy with it, click the recapture thing to prove that you're not a robot. And then it says on submit you'll then be able to download a PDF of the report. Please, please, please do download the PDF of the report. It's really important, not only for your records, because it'll keep a record which you can store on your computer, but if we've got a record, you can share it with our wonderful flight safety officers within our association, Trevor Capon and Chris Adams. So I'd encourage you please to download the PDF, and I'll show you how to do that now. So you press submit, and off goes your form, and here's the bit for PDF download. So just before we go to that, there's all the pages here, and you can see the pages that you've submitted, but click PDF download and you'll get a copy of what the incident report looks like. So here it is. That's its sort of unique code at the top, and there's all the information you've filled in, which you can then share with people as a PDF from your computer. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that's easy to follow. As I say, don't fill it. You don't have to fill in every field. Let me see if I can find one I've done earlier. Here we go. So this is one from only a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, the day that we were allowed to go paragliding again, there were a couple of big accidents that day, and this was the one which I was involved in at Coombe Gibbet. It didn't happen to me. In fact, I didn't even see it happen. But being first aid trained, I kind of helped the chap out after he'd crashed, and then thought I'd better put an incident report in because it's quite kind of relevant. So, as you'll see, there's a lot of this which I know nothing about. I happened to find out how old the guy was, but I didn't know anything else about him. Knew nothing about his wing, nothing about his harness, didn't have a power unit. So, fields left blank, saves loads of time. Here we go. So he did have a helmet, he did have decent boots on. And then the weather was really significant. I'd just been flying and it was bloody horrible when he had his accident. So that's quite significant. Course of events, what happened? It was a nasty injury, complex break of his leg. And then here's the text. This is what I wrote in the incident report. I chucked some photographs on. There's the poor chap's name. That is public knowledge, so I'm not dropping him in it there. I didn't see it. There was no one else involved. It wasn't a school, but so I consider myself to be a third party in this case. So I stuck my details in, and yeah, because I was doing a bit of first aid on the fellow. So hopefully that's given you a decent rundown on what an incident report is, how to do one. It's dead easy off the BHPA's website. And again, just to reiterate, it is our duty to report incidents. And if you're not sure whether to do it, as the guy said earlier on, if it's something which you think other people could learn from, then stick an incident report in. It's such an easy thing to do. It makes you feel better, and it helps the sport, and it certainly helps us as an association to keep ourselves safe. Good, thanks a lot. Cheers.